W tym roku jest troszeczkę inaczej niż było rok czy 2 lata temu. Bardzo dużo się dzieje wokół technologii blockchain ze względu na to, że coraz więcej...
This year it is a bit different than last year or 2 years ago because the blockchain technology is gaining more interest and there's more research in this area and more people are discovering the details of this technology. Professor, please come to the front. I want to mention about the construction and security of this technology, but will not cover the technology details. There will be many presentations today about this, and I hope that technological aspects will be covered and will be interesting for you. Personally, I produced the devices that confirm transactions in the Bitcoin network, the so-called miners. So this is to deal with confirmation of the cryptocurrency transactions. I want to tell you why blockchain is safe. Where did it start? It started in 2008 with Satoshi Nakamoto, who published an abstract in which he said that there was a possibility of implementing an entirely independent network that would be peer-to-peer and that would allow a transmission or sending of money at that time, but now we know that this applies to any value. So a coin or a cryptocurrency, it is defined as a chain of digital signatures. We know what are the high possibilities of cryptography now, how much developed it is. This is an extract from the Satoshi's white paper, which shows how the signatures are passed and how the transaction is done. I added colors to the original Satoshi's version to better visualize the transaction. As you can see, and as I mentioned before, there is a chain of digital signatures, and the digital value is transferred with the shortened version of a public key signature, and then there are possibilities of encrypting this with further down the chain. What is the construction of the block? I will try to keep the details, the technological details, simple. As the very name mentions it, the blockchain is a chain of linked blocks, and Bitcoin blockchain is where the information on transaction is written in and stored. The header is what creates the blockchain technology. With Bitcoin, there's the information about transactions. We know that there are many technologies or ideas or the implemented products that allow substituting that information about transactions with completely different information. Of course, we have here a very important thing, which is the proof of work protocol. It is a consensus that is responsible for having the information which is confirmed that is the same at every point along the chain. It is secure because it is encrypted. This is the construction of the block. I hope it is understandable for us. Let's say that if you have questions in the meantime, you are welcome to ask them. Here is another version of showing how the blockchain works for people that are maybe less technical. It is a table that contains information which are in the blockchain: output address, input address, transaction ID, timestamp, the volume of transaction, and so on. This is stored in the blockchain, and it is in the form of encrypted and abbreviated information. This is, I showed you a table form, and this is a visualization of a different form. Here We have a little bit less possibilities of extracting information from this form, and we want to have as much as possible. And nevertheless, visually, it is a good way to illustrate how these nodes and addresses function, how it is all interrelated with the whole network. Now let's come to the security. Apart from encryption and the blockchain technology, I will give you this short version of how the security is in the Bitcoin network. There are two basic functions. One function is the computing power that allows collecting, storing and confirming of information of transaction. And the second function is the database that consists of the nodes. At the beginning there was one node only. The whole Bitcoin network is based on the decentralized computing power and decentralized database. So decentralization is the basic feature. The user that performs one transaction generates information that is passed to miners and verified by them. Then it is in the database, which is decentralized, and it is passed to all the nodes of the network, and there is possibility of checking whether at every node of the network this information is the same. If it is confirmed, the information is confirmed and written in the blockchain. It is written into the database and another transaction is processed. This is what the node, the basic node, looks like. It contains wallet, the miner, that is the device that deals with transaction, the full blockchain, and the so-called routing node, which is a node that allows participation in the network, and it has all 8 links to the network. This is another form to visualize it. It's the basic version, the first version that was presented by Satoshi himself. It is developed all the time, and this software is developed all the time along the rules made by Satoshi. Since then, with regard to how Bitcoin network evolved, there are several types of nodes. The slide here is in English. The initial node is the full Bitcoin core. Then there is full blockchain node, which contains the blockchain database and the network routing node. The third one is solo miner, which is a device that contains the whole blockchain and is linked to the network directly and not through pool. Lightweight wallet is what we can use in our phones. They make reference to existing server with a full blockchain node. It is enough to have this wallet to be able to use the full blockchain node capacities and receive information and pass. Then there is, of course, pool protocols that link other miners. There are mining nodes which are included in the pools, and they are a bit different than the solo miner. And lightweight wallet, which is a stratum wallet, and it is used to replace TCP/IP protocol. It is a special protocol. This is the visual representation of a so-called extended Bitcoin network. At the beginning, every person that was the owner of the wallet was a miner and had the full blockchain copy, had the node to connect to the network and could send the transactions. Let's come now more to commercial details. This is one of the biggest miner centers in the world. It is located in Georgia. This is a real picture of devices that has been functioning for the last 1.5 years. They were produced by Bitfury. It is just one wall in the center, which contains 4 walls, and this location has around 4 centers like this one. Can you repeat where is it? In Georgia. Can you be more specific? No, I can't, unfortunately, but this is in Georgia. The development of these devices makes the difficulty of the network grow. The more users are using the network, and the higher their activity is, the higher the security, because the more computing power we have, the more difficult it is to manipulate the calculations. How much can the center mine? It is difficult to say, because now the devices are different, and it's not these devices that do the mining now. Right now, they do around 20. It is difficult to make any estimations. I don't even want to give you estimation, even approximately. I don't know how they function now. They have been developing now the so-called drop-down center solutions, which are very similar to containers. They would have 1 to 5 petaflops per second. They have cooling devices and other devices that are needed for power infrastructure. They can be linked to energy source, and they can function like this, and of course with an internet connection. The difficulty of the network is growing all the time. How much percent do they mine at that center? On the average, it is 10 to 15%. They will have more because it is easy to achieve to increase that rate. And it directly increases the security. And what about the effectiveness? I mean, how many transactions per minute can the system process? The blockchain itself can process, if I'm correct, around 10 transactions per second. So this is quite low, yes. But we can scale it, and there's a roadmap to do that. And after the lightweight network is introduced, it will be much higher. It seems to me that we can realistically double the blockchain capacity. I think that the difference between blockchain itself and the lightweight network is much higher, and it will be in thousands, I think. Let me show you this now. Top 500. This is the data that I show very often in my presentations to show you the difference between the computing power. And top 500 is the list of the 500 most performing and powerful computers in the world. This list is from November 2015, and all the top 500 combined had 420 petaflops per second. Bitcoin network had 17 million petaflops per second right now. So all the computers at once are not able to break the Bitcoin network security. And seeing this difference, we know that they won't be able to do that for a long time. We've got around 60 million mined bitcoins right now, and 9 billion capitalization with the halving approaching. And let's move on. The number of nodes, which I described previously. So one of actually 4 of the 8 types that I showed you before. This is very fresh data from this morning, and there is 5,000 over 600 nodes. The number is growing depending on the events. If we switch on the mobiles and connect the mobiles to this network, the number will go higher. And visually, this is another presentation.
Mamy około 6000 nodów, to jest liczba najczęściej między 5 a 10 tysięcy tylko tych wszystkich nodów.
I don't know if you can see this clearly. If you look at the Bitcoin methodology, so the methodology plus a very high investment that was done in that network, it makes the Bitcoin network the most secure network that exists. You probably realize that. And these are my conclusions, and I can have a discussion with you about that. I showed you the big data centers. There are also smaller devices that do the mining, that they serve as wallets. There are some devices that are not connected to the network. There are paper wallets. There are many possibilities. I wanted to show you some details from the device perspective and to show you why the Bitcoin network is so secure. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions now? We still have time for questions. My question is, how can you estimate what place we are in terms of the number of nodes? How can we estimate? How does BitNode calculate it? Yes, where do you get this information from? Where to find it? Yes, in fact, the website address was not given here. bitnode.io. They provide in the BitHub the information about how they examine this. They send requests for information to all the nodes, and they ask the nodes about the details about their activity. They ask if the node is active. My next question is, the node, it's a node point. Do I understand it correctly? Do they only serve this open network of Bitcoin, or can they be used for other purposes? This is the basic Bitcoin that was designed for the purposes of serving the Bitcoin network. Because not all the users want to have their wallets on the PCs or laptops. They sometimes prefer to have the wallets on their mobile devices, and several types of nodes were designed to meet that need. Another question I have then. There are several types of cryptocurrencies, so can various cryptocurrencies use the nodes that you're discussing? In my opinion, it's not that way. So the nodes are used only for the Bitcoin here, but this diversity of nodes is very beneficial for the users anyway. So it's just a matter of I understand that this is what you're asking for, how the nodes are used
Moim zdaniem nie.
for this technology.
Szczególnie te kopikaty, które korzystają, tak jakby, że zmienianie jest tylko
Let's add, I think the question needs to be more specific. Very often it is just an application that we install on our device. So the same node can be various cryptocurrencies. It's just an application. It can work for a dedicated hardware, but it can be installed on various devices. Yes, this is an application and it has all the features. So my question is, the place where we are, it can refer not only to bitcoins, but to other cryptocurrencies, if I get it right. No, what the data that we're providing here refers only to bitcoins. The blockchain for Bitcoin, that's our topic.
No tak, oczywiście. To jest aplikacja, bo myślałem, że to widać. To jest
So
właśnie
this
aplikacja,
is the
która
matter of
rzeczywiście,
having the software installed. Yes? I have a question. You said that due to halving, the price of Bitcoin went up. This was the reason for the price increase. Why was that? The tendency is that if we diminish the demand by half, if we diminish the supply by half, well, it's not the supply, but it's the availability. Well, let me think. People sell and trade bitcoins currently, and the current demand is one thing. Another thing is that halving has a large influence on the price, but a lot of people are using Bitcoin and that number is increasing, and still the market share of Bitcoin is very small, so there is a very large room for gaining the market share and for development. For example, if the company builds and sets up these walls of mining devices, well, let me comment on that. There are two companies that I would assume that if they mount up a wall of devices like that, they foresee that in some years it will be beneficial. Well, in case of that wall, as you mentioned, it is a bit different topic. Right now, globally, there are two companies like that. There used to be four, and at the right time, they have developed the 55, let's say, nanometer system, and now they are going down with their technology because of very many factors related to the production of technologies like ASIC, TSMC. It is for a really long term. So 3 years ago, they would know that they knew that they would have to change for what is now at the forefront of the technology. And right now there is, let's say, 7 nanometer technologies. Thank you, Mr. Filip, for co-organization of this conference and for your presentation.
Dobrze. Proszę Państwa, myślę, że w tym momencie podziękujemy Panu Filipowi i za współorganizację forum i za osobistą prezentację. No a teraz trochę bardziej